Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive.
Always. What are we looking at today?
Well, today's topic, it might surprise you.
Hmm.
We're going to be looking at the world of autism and psychic abilities.
Whoa, okay, that's a pretty interesting combo.
Yeah, I know, right? It sounds a little out there.
It does.
But we've actually got some really fascinating research
Okay.
and personal stories that suggest there might actually be a link between autistic experiences and phenomena
Nick, what?
like telepathy or clairvoyance.
Okay, so before we get too deep into that, though,
Yeah.
maybe we should start with just, a basic, what do we even mean by psychic abilities
Absolutely.
when we're talking about this?
So for this deep dive, when we say psychic abilities, we're
Yeah.
talking about things that seem to go beyond those like usual five senses that we're used to.
All right, then.
So think like telepathy,
Okay.
that mind-to-mind communication, or clairvoyance, which is kind of like having that, sixth sense where you can kind of perceive things that are happening somewhere else far away.
Right. Yeah.
Even precognition, like glimpses into the future.
Yeah, those,
We'll touch on that too.
you should probably add empathy to that list.
Oh, right. Good point.
And of course, in this context, we're talking about
Yeah.
when we say empathy, that heightened ability to kind of sense and feel.
The emotions of others.
Exactly.
So we're talking about experiences that people usually think of as paranormal,
Right.
but we're really trying to look at it through the lens of, autism and what that experience is like.
Exactly. And it's important to remember,
Yeah.
we're not trying to like definitively say whether these abilities exist or not.
Right.
We're really more interested in exploring how they could be connected to just the way that autistic individuals experience the world.
So how do we even start to unpack that? Like, are there theories out there that try to explain
Yeah.
this possible connection?
One of the, I guess you could call it leading theories, is that it has something to do with the neurological differences that
Okay.
we see in autistic individuals.
Okay.
So, for example,
Yep.
it's fairly common that, autistic individuals will have a heightened sensitivity
Okay.
to stimuli.
Sensory, like input, yeah.
And they also seem to be really, really good at pattern recognition.
Wait, are you saying the same, like, abilities that make them,
Yeah.
super sensitive to things like sights and sounds and textures could also allow them to pick up on things that are like beyond, our normal perception?
Yeah, that's one idea.
That's wild.
It is. Imagine.
Yeah.
Imagine that. Their brains are just wired to kind of detect these really subtle cues
Okay.
and patterns that like most people would totally miss.
Yeah.
And then, take that idea a step further.
Okay.
What if that ability extends to like energies or information that we don't even really, have a way to describe yet?
Whoa. That's pretty mind-boggling.
It is.
Is there any research that like backs that up at all?
So there's a really interesting study from the University of Cambridge.
Okay.
And what they did was they found that autistic individuals
Right.
were way better
Mm.
at detecting these really, really subtle changes in visual patterns.
Mm.
And they were changes that like neurotypical people couldn't even perceive.
Oh, wow.
So literally their brains were seeing things that other people just weren't.
Could that apply to
It's a question.
like sensing things like emotions or thoughts?
Yeah, definitely worth exploring, right?
Yeah.
Another theory
Okay.
centers around sensory processing.
Okay.
And that tends to be a pretty big challenge for a lot of autistic individuals.
Right.
So the idea is that the difficulties that, they often have with like filtering and processing all that sensory input
Mm-hmm.
might actually make them, in a way, more
Yeah,
attuned
right.
to certain subtle energies or information.
So you're saying that thing that's often perceived as like a challenge
Yeah.
could actually be like the thing that unlocks these
Mm.
extraordinary abilities.
It's like their senses are just so finely tuned
Okay.
that they're picking up on these frequencies that most people just don't register.
Okay.
It's like they're kind of experiencing the world
Yeah.
on a different level.
Oh, wow. My mind is officially blown. And we haven't even gotten to the personal stories yet.
Right.
Right.
We've got some really interesting accounts in the research we looked at.
Okay. Let's hear it.
So one story involves an individual
Okay.
who will keep anonymous,
Okay.
but they described developing telepathic abilities as a child.
Wow.
And in particular, they talked about sensing their mother's emotions and thoughts.
That's incredible. Did they say like how that developed over time? Like, did it stay the same or?
They said it evolved, which is really interesting.
Okay.
They described it as evolving into like a really strong intuition that really guided a lot of your choices in life, relationships and things.
Like, imagine being able to tap into that, like, network of information.
That we can't even see.
Right. That's really powerful.
It is.
What about, you said there was another one, right?
Yeah, the other story involved this person who actually calls themselves an empath.
Yeah.
And for a long time, they really struggled with being overwhelmed by everyone else's emotions.
Wow. So like,
could you imagine constantly feeling everyone's joy and sadness and anger all around you all the time?
That sounds like a lot.
It's really intense. It can be really debilitating.
How do you even, like, I don't even know how you would...
How do you even function?
Yeah.
Like in a grocery store or...
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, did they talk about how they...
So it's really interesting because for this person, their autism diagnosis was actually a huge turning point.
Oh, wow.
Because it helped them understand that this heightened empathy wasn't just some weird random thing.
Right.
It could actually be directly connected to their neurology.
So it gave them a framework to understand it.
Exactly. And that allowed them to start to develop some strategies to manage those abilities.
So it was actually getting that diagnosis was like an empowering thing for them.
It was a huge...
Okay, I can understand this. This is a part of who I am.
Totally. And it's not just a negative thing.
Right. Exactly.
They actually talked about how it led to some really, really meaningful relationships.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And even a really fulfilling career path where they were able to use that to help others.
It's so interesting how, like, what might seem like a challenge can actually be, like, flipped around.
Like, can be such a gift.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is fascinating. Like, it really makes you think.
It does.
About, you know, what's possible and...
It does.
And all these things.
It challenges a lot of assumptions.
It does.
And even though we don't have, like, a named expert in the stuff that we were looking at to really dive into all that, it's clear that this connection goes way beyond just brain wiring, you know?
So it's more than just the science.
It's about, you know... It's about recognizing that autistic individuals often perceive and experience the world in a profoundly different way. And that's kind of the key here. You know, it's not just about, are these psychic phenomena real or not? It's about respecting and trying to understand those different experiences.
I love that. Respecting diverse experiences.
Yeah.
This has already been so insightful.
It has.
And we've defined what we're talking about with these psychic abilities.
Yeah.
We've gone through those two fascinating theories, heard those incredible personal stories.
Yeah.
But I'm sure our listeners have a lot to ponder already.
I'm sure they do.
So we'll be back with even more insights and perspectives.
Definitely.
In part 2 of this deep dive.
Yeah.
So stay tuned.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back. So as we kind of dig deeper into this whole connection between autism and psychic abilities, it makes me think about, like, what are the challenges that might come with these experiences?
Yeah, that's a really important thing to consider.
Yeah.
We've been focusing on
the cool stuff.
Yeah, the more extraordinary aspects of it all. But it's also important to acknowledge that these abilities could also, present some real difficulties.
Right, especially for people who are, already dealing with a world that doesn't quite get them.
Exactly. And especially if you're autistic and you're already facing a world that doesn't understand you, and then you have these experiences on top of that.
Totally. Imagine, like, you're constantly bombarded by everyone's emotions around you. How do you even function?
Yeah. How do you go to the grocery store? How do you hold down a job? It's a lot.
It's got to be tough.
Yeah. So that's where sensory overload becomes a really big issue.
Okay.
For some people, that heightened sensitivity to all those energies and emotions could actually amplify those feelings of being overwhelmed.
Right. So it's not just like having the abilities, it's also learning to manage them
and manage and control.
Control them.
And that's where things get tricky because you're dealing with these experiences that a lot of people don't understand or dismiss
and even within the autistic community, I imagine it's probably hard.
It can be really isolating.
And talk about, yeah.
Yeah, if you're already
Why
trying to be accepted for who you are.
And then you're like, oh, and also I can see the future.
Yeah, and then you say, oh, and also I have these experiences and people don't understand.
You're just gonna like,
yeah, they're gonna push you away even more.
Okay, well.
Yeah. So that's why it's so important to create these safe spaces for autistic individuals to share these experiences without feeling judged.
Without feeling like they're going to get shut down.
Exactly, because when we silence those voices, you know, we're really missing out on valuable insights into, you know, like the full spectrum of what human potential really is.
Okay, so this brings up another question.
Yeah.
What about the scientific community?
Yeah.
Is there any research out there?
That's a complicated one.
Okay.
So the study of, you know, psychic phenomena, it's called parapsychology.
Okay.
It's been around for a long time.
Yeah.
But a lot of mainstream researchers see it as like fringe science.
Why is that?
Well, I mean, there's a few reasons.
Okay.
One is that it's really, really difficult to study these phenomena in a controlled lab setting.
I can imagine.
You know, it's not like measuring someone's blood pressure.
Yeah, you can't just like put telepathy, you know, under a microscope.
Exactly. You're dealing with these really subtle energies and subjective experiences that are really, really hard to measure.
Right.
Like objectively.
Makes sense.
So that's one reason. Right. Another reason is, unfortunately, there is some skepticism and bias.
Within the scientific community?
Yeah, a lot of researchers are kind of hesitant to even consider the possibility because it really challenges
their worldview.
You know, so.
Yeah, it's like a catch-22.
It is.
Like you need more research.
You need the research.
You can't get the research.
But how do you get the research?
Yeah, because people don't think it's real.
Yeah. How do you get funding when no one believes it's real?
It's tough. It's tough.
It's a real challenge.
So how do we bridge that gap then?
Well, I think what we need is more dialogue, more collaboration.
Yeah.
We need scientists who are open to hearing the stories of autistic individuals and to really take those stories seriously.
Even if they don't fully understand them yet.
Even if they don't understand, because that's the first step.
Okay.
And then we need, you know, autistic individuals who are willing to, you know, share their experiences.
Their stories.
Yeah, and participate in research, even if it feels
risky.
Yeah, a little scary or risky because they might not be taken seriously. But
it's a two-way street.
It is. It's about building that trust.
Okay.
And that mutual respect.
You know, this is interesting because as we're talking about this, I'm realizing, like, all these articles that we have, you know, about autism, they're not written by autistic people.
Right.
Which is really interesting.
That's a really good point.
Right.
Yeah, and it highlights, I think, like, how important it is to center autistic voices in these conversations because they're the experts on their own experiences.
Like, it's one thing for us to be sitting here talking about this.
Yeah.
But it's a whole other thing to actually hear directly from people who are living this.
It would be so valuable to have their perspective on this. You know, not just on this topic specifically, but just to understand autism as a whole.
In all of its complexity.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. It's a good reminder to be mindful of whose voices are being heard and whose aren't.
Absolutely.
So, okay, this is all really intriguing. Yeah. But let's shift gears just a tiny bit.
Okay.
We've talked about the challenges. We've talked about the need for more research and everything.
Right.
What about the potential benefits? Like...
Yeah, that's a good question.
If some autistic individuals really do have these abilities, how could that benefit?
How could that benefit society as a whole?
Yeah, like what could that look like?
So imagine, you know, harnessing those intuitive abilities to maybe solve some of our biggest problems. To maybe understand the universe in a different way, to connect with each other on a deeper level. I mean, the possibilities are pretty mind-blowing when you think about it.
That's amazing, and it totally flips that whole, like, you know...
It flips the
the deficit model.
On the deficit model.
Yeah, of autism, and, like, actually looks at the strengths.
Yeah.
And the potential.
It's about recognizing those strengths that often get overlooked. And it's not even just about those big, like, societal benefits, like, just on an individual level for someone to embrace those abilities. It can be so empowering.
I bet.
It can give you a sense of purpose, belonging, value for who you are.
Like, imagine just, like, understanding the thing that made you feel different is actually a gift.
Exactly. And that's why we need to keep having these conversations.
Okay.
We need to keep raising awareness. We need to keep pushing the boundaries of what we think we know about ourselves and the world around us.
I love that. This has been so thought-provoking.
It has.
Like, we've talked about the challenges, we have explored the potential benefits, touched on the need for, like, better research.
More inclusive research.
Yeah, more inclusive research. Yeah. But I feel like there's one more.
There's one more layer we got to peel back here.
Yes. Like, we got to.
This might be the most important one.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more.
So it has to do with how we view autism.
Okay.
Like, from the very beginning.
Right. Yeah.
We tend to frame these conversations around the challenges and the deficits and the things that make autistic individuals different.
Different, right,
than what we consider the norm.
And that just perpetuates that, like...
It does. It perpetuates a very limited and often negative view of autism.
Okay, so what if we shift that?
So what if, instead of focusing on what might be lacking,
okay,
what if we focus on what might be abundant?
Okay, like their strengths.
Yes.
Okay.
What if we reframe those differences as strengths?
Yeah, we already talked about how, like, their heightened sensitivities and just, like, the unique ways.
Their unique ways of processing information could be the key to all of this. So what if we take that a step further?
Okay.
And think of autism not as a disorder to be cured, but as a different way of being.
Okay.
A different way of experiencing the world.
It's like we've been looking at the puzzle pieces upside down.
That's a great analogy.
Yeah.
We've been so focused on making all the pieces fit into this framework, this pre-existing framework that we have.
That we've missed the whole picture.
That we've totally missed.
Yeah.
The picture that those pieces are actually creating.
Are you saying that autism itself, it's a question?
Could be like a form of neurodiversity that
opens up
all these
possibilities that we don't even realize.
Whoa.
So if we can accept that, autistic individuals experience the world differently.
Does that mean there are other human potentials?
Yeah. Does that open the door to all these other possibilities?
Yeah. That we haven't even tapped into yet.
That's a huge question.
It is.
Like, that makes you rethink everything.
It makes you rethink what it means to be human.
Wow, this deep dive has really taken us to some unexpected places.
It has.
I think it's time to
take a little break.
Yeah, let our listeners kind of
absorb all this.
Absorb everything.
Yeah.
But we'll be back soon.
We will.
With our final thoughts.
Yes.
In part 3.
Stay tuned.
All right. Welcome back to our final part of this deep dive into the world of autism and psychic abilities.
Yeah, it's been a pretty wild ride, hasn't it?
It really has.
So much to think about.
So much to think about.
Yeah.
We've covered so much, like all those fascinating theories and personal stories and just like the complexities of how science views this whole thing.
It's a tricky one for sure.
But as we wrap this up, I keep thinking about, like, there's still so much more to explore here.
Absolutely, you're right.
Like, we've
just scratched the surface.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think as we kind of reflect on everything, it's important to remember that this isn't just about psychic abilities or autism, like, as separate things. It's really about, understanding the full spectrum of human potential.
Yeah. And all the different ways.
All the different ways that we experience the world.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So, yeah.
Like, we've been so focused on these extraordinary abilities.
Right.
But at its core, this is really about, like...
Yeah, it's about embracing diversity.
Respecting the experiences
of all individuals, especially autistic individuals, even when those experiences challenge our understanding of what we think is possible.
It's like we've been given this brand new way.
A new lens.
Of looking at the world.
To see the world through.
Where the boundaries of what we think is real.
Yeah. what's possible, what's real.
Are maybe way more...
It might be a lot more fluid than we realize.
Than we think.
Yeah.
That's really exciting.
It is. It really is.
Because who knows?
Yeah.
What else is out there?
And, it makes you wonder if some of these things that we're calling psychic abilities are really just, different expressions of human perception that we just don't have.
The tools to understand.
Yeah, or even the language to describe fully.
That is exciting.
It is.
Like, what other potentials?
Yeah, what else is hidden within us?
That we just, we don't even know about.
That we haven't tapped into yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think it all starts with,
curiosity.
Curiosity.
A willingness to question.
Yeah, question everything.
All of our assumptions.
Yeah.
And just explore the unknown with open minds.
With open hearts.
Yeah.
This deep dive has sparked a lot of curiosity in me, that's for sure.
That's good. That's good.
I'm walking away with just like a whole new appreciation for
the complexity.
The complexities of autism.
Yeah.
And just like...
And for the amazing potential.
Yeah, the potential.
That's there in
all of us.
In the human experience.
Yeah. This has been incredible.
Yes.
And I really hope our listeners feel the same way.
I hope so too.
This is a conversation that needs to continue.
It does.
And we encourage everyone to seek out
go and
autistic voices.
Seek out those voices
and perspectives
on this topic.
Yeah, on everything.
Think beyond
Thank you all so much for joining us on this journey.
It's been a pleasure
of discovery.
It has.
And we hope that it's inspired you to just
to keep questioning.
Keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
And keep embracing the beauty of...
The beauty of diversity.
Yeah, the human experience in all its forms.
Yeah, beautifully said.
Thank you.
All right, that's it for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.